If you live in Melbourne, you would have noticed that you can't write online reviews about primary schools anymore. And that's bad for me as a mum because I think it's important for parents to share their experiences online so people can learn from each other. I'm going to tell you all my review of Thornbury Primary School from my perspective as a parent. There were a lot of things I didn't like about the school, and I'll try to explain why without going into the issues too much. Firstly, I found it hard to enroll in the school. I think that was because of communication failures from the school. And when I finally got it done, I hated some of the staff and I hated some of the other parents. I really hated the receptionist. I'd come over from a different school and I was used to having things done in a certain way, and I didn't understand that woman at all, so it made my life really difficult. The irony was, though, that by the time we were ready to leave Thornbury Primary, I came to like the receptionist and I think we worked well together. Other things I hated were the social aspects. I felt uncomfortable with the attitude I got from other parents, and I found it impossible to relate to most of them because of that. I didn't like some of the chores the children were forced to do because I thought they were done in an unhygienic way. And I hated the fact that the school staff allowed the students to go across the road to the park. I didn't want my daughter going out of the school grounds, and I was made to feel like I was under pressure to allow it. Not by a particular staff member, but by the fact that it was allowed by school policy. I felt scared of my daughter going out of school grounds, and I can't justify why they would allow them to do that when the children were in primary school and the schoolyard must have seemed so big to them already. Other things I hated were much worse. Tragically, my child tripped over in the school and needed stitches in her knee. This was a horrible experience for me as a mum, and the problem with the incident wasn't just that it happened, but the way it was dealt with. I won't go into the details, but I can assure you it wasn't good. The following year, another tragedy happened. Believe it or not, my child was knocked over by another kid, and the resulting injuries were a broken arm, a black eye, and a skin infection. Once again, I wasn't happy with the way the incident was dealt with. I can't go into the details, but I'm sure everyone will understand what it was like for me as a parent to be protecting and comforting a child who went through two serious incidents at primary school. From my perspective, there wasn't enough support for me for the practical side of what I needed when those incidents happened. I also felt that the school nurse, sick bay, or whatever they call it now, offered an inappropriate response to the incidents. And I found it ironic that the school offered the children things like meditation and other little programs, but basics like the school nurse seemed to be dispensable. I've always been against psychologists in schools, and I don't know if they've got them in primary schools, but telling you about how the school dealt with my child's injuries gives me the opportunity to make a point about the school's priorities. The government are paying for psychologists in secondary schools. I know that for a fact. So there's funding being spent on that. But I would prefer it if that money was spent on more appropriate medical care in primary and secondary schools. And by that, I don't mean that I want the schools to have permission to keep medical records on the children, and I don't want them to treat the children when they should be sent to a family doctor or a hospital. I mean that if the child was injured at school, the person treating them should be qualified, use gloves, and follow medical procedure, or at least a procedure with medical care in mind. For example, if a child trips over in a schoolyard and is bleeding, they could be washed with sterilized water by a person wearing sterile gloves. No attempt should be made to treat the injury or to take over the parent's or a doctor's role. but it should still be a better standard of care than what they're getting now. I don't really know how to explain what I mean, but I just got the impression that programs like meditation and forcing the children to pick slugs off a compost bin should be secondary to the sterile care of a bleeding knee. I think sick bays and school nurses could be done better, and maybe some school staff could take the role of the school nurse more seriously. Even though I may not have explained myself as clearly as I would like, I hope this video starts a conversation that leads to children receiving better care after they suffer injuries at school.